Residential Appraisal Report Writing and Case Studies. Chapter 2, Reporting Basics and Options. Page 11. Standards Rule 2-2. Standards Rule 2-1 gave us some basic direction regarding real property appraisal reports. The specific details of required minimum report content for written reports are found in Standards Rule 2-2. Each written real property appraisal report must be prepared under one of the following options and prominently state which option is used. Appraisal report or restricted appraisal report. An appraiser may use any other label in addition to, but not in place of, the labels set forth in this standards rule for the type of report provided. The use of additional labels such as analysis, consultation, evaluation, study, or valuation does not exempt an appraiser from adherence to USPAP. The report content and level of information requirements in this standards rule are minimum for each type of report. An appraiser must supplement a report form when necessary to ensure that any intended user of the appraisal is not misled and that the report complies with applicable content requirements. End of page. Page 12. Reporting options in Standards Rule 2-2. To reiterate, Standards Rule 2-2 provides two options for written real property appraisal reports. Number 1, appraisal report. Number 2, restricted appraisal report. Earlier, we discussed the fact that a particular form does not determine what type of report we generate. You will recall that Standard 2 states that the form or format of a report is not dictated by USPAP. Instead, the needs of the client and intended users are the fundamental concerns in selecting the type of report option to be used. Your report will be determined to be an appraisal report or restricted appraisal report based upon the amount of information and level of detail you provide in the report. This course is going to focus on the appraisal report for the primary reason that most of the appraisal reports that we provide are appraisal reports. Typically, our client is not the only intended user of the appraisal report. Therefore, the restricted appraisal report will not be appropriate in most real life appraisal situations. End of page. Page 13. Appraisal report. Many appraisal reports that are labeled by appraisers as an appraisal report are not really that at all. Unfortunately, sometimes the appraiser does not provide the minimum content and level of detail required in SR 2-2 to qualify the report as an appraisal report. A mislabeled appraisal report is misleading. It is possible that the content of the report may meet neither of the reporting options specified by SR 2-2, which means the report is not compliant with USPAP. However, careful attention to the reporting requirements found in SR 2-2 will keep us out of trouble. Standards Rule 2-2 is in two parts, labeled A and B. These parts establish the minimum content requirements for an appraisal report and a restricted appraisal report, respectively. In the next chapter, we are going to concentrate the requirements for completion of an appraisal report. There are 14 numbered content items for the appraisal report option and 16 numbered content items for the restricted appraisal report option. We will continue with differences between the report options after a short quiz. Page 14. Quiz. This quiz has a total of 3 questions. There will be 1 question per page. You must achieve 66% to pass this quiz. Start quiz. Number 1. Ricky has been asked to appraise a property for an out-of-state client who has very little knowledge of the property. The intended use would necessitate a high level of information in the report. However, since there are no other intended users, Ricky wonders if he should use a restricted report format. What does USPAP state about this situation? A. USPAP does not specify when report types are appropriate or inappropriate. B, a restricted report is not permissible because the client and intended use would dictate a higher level of content and detail. Or C, none of the above. I'm going to go A. Number 2, Nancy is completing an appraisal for a client and 2 additional intended users. Which of these statements is true? A, she may not use a restricted appraisal report. Or B, she may use a restricted appraisal report if she included the additional users with their names. I'm going to go B. I'm not sure on that one, though. I'm not 100. I think like 60% chance. Number 3, the form or format of an appraisal report. A, is not important when providing appraisal reports to mortgage lenders. B, is not dictated by USPAP. C, depends primarily upon the fee charged by the appraiser. Or D, none of the above. I'm going to go B, is not dictated by USPAP. Assessment completed, finish. You passed, you got a 66.7%. So remember, number 1, Ricky has been asked to appraise a property for an out-of-state client who has very little knowledge of the property. The intended use would necessitate a high level of information in the report. However, since there are no other intended users, Ricky wonders if he should use a restricted report format. What does USPAP state about this situation? You said A, USPAP does not specify when report types are appropriate or inappropriate, and that was incorrect. The correct answer was a restricted report is not permissible because the client and intended user or the intended use would dictate a higher level of content and detail. The comment to SR 2-2 states, the appropriate reporting options and the level of information necessary in the report are dependent on the intended use and the intended users. Chapter 2, Standards Rule 2-2. Number 2, Nancy is completing an appraisal for a client and 2 additional intended users. Which of these statements is true? You said B. She may use a restricted appraisal report if she included the additional users with their names. And that was correct. And lastly, number 3, the form or format of an appraisal report. You said B, is not dictated by USPAP, and that was correct. End of page.